Released in 1982, Pac-Man for the Atari 2600 was a highly anticipated home port of the beloved arcade classic. While it aimed to bring the arcade experience to living rooms across the world, it has become infamous for the significant difference in quality between the original arcade version and its home console counterpart. The most notable downside of Pac-Man on the Atari 2600 is the graphics. While the arcade version featured vibrant, colourful visuals with smooth animations, the Atari version falls short. The ghosts and Pac-Man are easily recognisable, but the limited capabilities of the Atari 2600 hardware make the game look rough and pixelated. The maze is a far cry from the intricate, bright labyrinth of the arcade. The graphics are a step down from what players were expecting, and are often considered one of the biggest drawbacks. Sound is another area where the game struggles. The iconic sound effects from the arcade, like the distinct waka waka of Pac-Man eating pellets, are present but lack the clarity and punch of the original. The beeps and blips feel flat, and while they're functional, they don't have the charm that made the arcade sound so memorable. On the gameplay front, the core mechanics of Pac-Man remain intact. You control Pac-Man as he navigates a maze, eating pellets and avoiding four colourful ghosts: Blinky, Pinky, Inky and Clyde. The game's challenge still revolves around the cat and mouse chase with the ghosts, and the strategic element of eating power pellets to turn the ghosts blue and eat them for extra points remains. However, the control and responsiveness feel a little sluggish compared to the fluid arcade version. The limited joystick precision of the Atari controller can make sharp turns and tight escapes difficult, leading to some frustrating moments. The maze itself is simple, and while it's still fun, the overall challenge of the game is dampened by the lack of visual clarity and the slight delay in Pac-Man's movements. Upon its release, Pac-Man on the Atari 2600 was a commercial phenomenon. It became one of the best-selling games for the console, with over 7 million copies sold, making it a massive hit among consumers. The excitement surrounding the game was fueled by the overwhelming success of the Pac-Man arcade game, which was a cultural phenomenon in its own right. Atari's aggressive marketing campaign hyped the home version as a must-have title for every Atari owner, and the game was widely anticipated. The Atari 2600 version of Pac-Man on the Atari 2600 is also tied to the lesson it taught the gaming industry about consumer expectations. When Pac-Man hit home consoles, players expected an arcade-perfect experience, given the massive popularity of the original. However, the limitations of the Atari 2600's hardware made it impossible to fully replicate the arcade experience, and the result was a game that was often criticized for its poor graphics, sound, and overall gameplay quality. This disparity between the arcade and home console versions led to widespread consumer disappointment and created a cautionary tale about the challenges of porting games across different platforms. The backlash from fans marked the beginning of a growing awareness of the need for developers to maintain quality when adapting arcade games for home consoles. It also fueled the debate about whether publishers should compromise on authenticity or adjust games for the hardware limitations of home systems. While it's hard to deny the nostalgic appeal of having Pac-Man in your home, this Atari 2600 port left much to be desired in terms of graphics, sound, and overall polish.